Welcome to Peel and Reveal, the podcast where we share stories about joy, purpose and self-discovery. I'm Annelie, and in this episode I'm talking with Annika Minnbergh, a senior teacher in the Rosen Method with over 30 years of experience. Annika had the privilege of learning directly from Marion Rosen, the method's founder, and has since taught in numerous countries including Norway, Denmark, France, Israel and Australia. Since 2005, she's also been working in Sarajevo, Bosnia, where the Rosen Method has helped to build friendships across borders, making her work not only a path to personal healing, but also a peace-building effort. With a background in biochemistry, Annika brings a unique perspective on the power of touch for our health and well-being. Let's dive into this lovely conversation with Annika. Welcome, Annika.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here. How are you today?
Yes, I'm happy to be here, and it's really interesting what comes out of this.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah, it will be so fun. I'm looking forward to hearing both your history and also talking a bit about Sarajevo, because you were just there.
Yeah, I was just there.
Yeah.
Last week.
We will get back to that, because I want to start in your childhood. So tell me about Annika growing up. Who were you as a little kid?
When I just hear my childhood, my God, I must have been so many years. I am so many years since it was so long ago, and so much has happened in all the development in everything in the world, technique and everything. Yeah. So when I think about my childhood, it feels like I'm like a history book. Because it is.
What year were you born?
I was born in 1943.
Wow. Is that just after the war then?
Yeah.
Ah, wow. Okay.
Yes. And I was born in a family, very alive family, since I had many siblings.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 sisters, elder sisters, and 3 younger brothers.
Oh, wow.
So I was in the middle, and it was quite fun. We did so much, and since we didn't have any technique, we had time to play. We had time to be creative, playing outside, a lot outside, having dogs, and having time for sports, skiing, boating.
Wow.
So it was. It's a joy, really, to think back into the childhood.
And who were you as a person? Were you like a lively kid, or were you shy, or like?
I wasn't so shy. I was curious. And when I look back, I must say, I was very brave. I didn't have any clue of that I was a child. I mean, I dared to do so many things, and just natural, to throw myself out in things.
Wow. Do you have any particular memory of that, being a brave child?
Yes, I mean, going out with a big dog for long walks and having the bicycle when I was 8, 9, running away 10 kilometers to go to dressage course and things like that.
Wow.
So I felt age. Yeah. Because I wasn't treated as a small child, because I had many other that were smaller. Yeah. So that was actually, I thought, that was really a freedom position to be in the middle.
Yeah. You didn't really have the kind of the requirements from the older kids, maybe, and then not the, I don't know the English word for daltande.
No. Not at all. Yeah. I was big from the beginning. but anyhow, what I've thought of also, that there were a lot of adventures with, skiing and going out with a boat and big waves, but there were no safety. No safety things. So it was just hanging on, clinging on to the boat, and the waves come. and no safe west or things. So it's really fun to look back. Yeah, you can survive. You can survive, and with bicycle, no helmets, no.
No, nothing.
And in the car, no safety belt, no.
Oh, really?
So that's how old I am, I think. But I don't feel old, but it's fun to look back.
Yeah, you're not old, you just have a lot of experience.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience, actually.
Yeah.
So
that's fun to hear. And it's fun to even think about it that long, because I can see the difference between my childhood when it comes to safety compared to the kids growing up now. So like now hearing you talk about it, I do realize that it's like maybe exponentially from there as well. But
it wasn't even a television.
Oh, yeah.
Not even that.
Oh, you really
That
did
old.
have a lot
Yes,
of
I
time to play.
have sort of followed all the
technology has happened while you have been alive. Wow. And as a teenager, what happened then?
Then I had a lot of interest in horses and skiing. So and of course I had friends, school friends. But then when I look back, it was so innocent compared to now. It was no dangers with drugs and alcohol. It was just fun.
Yeah.
So it was safe time, I think.
Interesting.
At least I felt it like that.
Yeah. Do you have any, like, I mean, with your experience and looking at, I guess, parenting then, I mean, you weren't a parent then, but compared to now, like, what can you do to give your child a more safe environment growing up now? What can we learn from that time?
Yeah, taking them out in the nature. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that is really to find out about life. And not just being on a telephone and a screen, because that takes away that your own creativity, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
I think that's a very important thing. And I have grandchildren, and they do a lot of things outside. But the telephone is important for every child now.
Yeah. And I guess it kind of has to be, but maybe it's having the other thing as well that is important. Yeah. And then you kind of studied to become a biochemist. Was that usual at that time, or was that very...
Probably not. I don't know. I've always been interested when I went in school and took my exam. It was about science, math, and chemistry and physics and so. And I remember how I was quite lazy, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I was. But I was active, but I mean school lazy for reading big history books and about history and all that. So I found math is a really good subject, because the book is not so big.
Yeah. It's
just to understand what it is.
Smart.
And then when I understand, I know that's good.
Yeah.
I could feel, this is right.
Okay, that's funny.
So it was, it interested me, and chemistry has always interested me.
Yeah. So chemistry is a subject, I haven't studied it since I was in high school, so I have a very, very small knowledge about chemistry. So what is chemistry to you, and what is so exciting about it?
Chemistry is, it's life. Since I studied biochemistry at the end, that was the sort of direction in my chemistry. But it is to find out about how it is. How it is beyond what you see.
Can you give me an example of something you kind of learned when you were studying that were amazing to you?
Since I choose the chemistry in direction of biochemistry, in my studying it was a lot about the most terrible part, and that was mice. To use mice as to find out with the mice. So that was a terrible part, because I have a sort of a mice allergy. I mean, emotional allergy. So that was the worst part. But I found it was interesting to see what happened, even if it was a clear liquid. You could mix, and it could change, and it could be sort of. It could develop something, and you could measure it. It was measurable.
So it was very data-driven. Yeah.
So I really like that, and I continued to work with that as a biochemist and with the direction of immunology.
Okay.
And that is very sort of close to health.
Yeah. So what do you do when you are a biochemist that works with I can't even say it, immunology? Yeah.
Immunology, I say.
Yeah. So what do you do when you do that?
Yes, I was part of developing diagnostic methods for cancer. And it was long ago now, so I wonder what happened with that, because it was really smart to have a blood test and see a special antigen that was correlating to cancer and growth of cells.
Yeah.
And then finding antibodies to that, and when they meet, you can measure it. So that was part of my biochemistry, and then it continued with developing for pneumonia.
Okay. Yeah.
To find the right medicine.
Yeah.
So it was. I liked it.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I guess maybe they have learned other stuff now, but back then, or even because I don't know, could you detect like all types of cancers with one blood test, or was it particular cancer types?
It was actually one certain antigen that is in the blood when there is a cell growth.
Okay.
So it could be also cell growth when something is healing very quickly. You could see so that was, and you could also follow the test after a cancer treatment, if it was metastasis growing up, when it started to grow again, and so. So that was very smart. I just wonder what happened to that.
Yeah, it sounds very smart.
It was called tissue polypeptide antigen.
Okay, I'm gonna Google that later.
I haven't Googled it, but I remember I liked it, and I was very active, interested.
Yeah, I can tell. But then, so you worked as a biochemist, I remember, because we had a fika before this, and you quite liked it and stuff. But then kind of life happened. Do you want to share a bit about what happened?
Life happens. Really.
Yeah.
And I was married. I had 2 kids, and life was good. That everything was there with a house and car and all. What is sort of
the goals in life?
The goal thing.
Yeah.
But my husband got a diagnosis of ALS, and he was not old. He was 42, I think.
Yeah.
When he got that diagnosis. And that was terrible. It was a terrible time, because it's so, it only goes in one direction.
Yeah.
It is, So it was a hard time to really manage.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I try hard and find methods to help him, I will heal him.
Yeah.
But of course, that wasn't possible, because nobody could heal that.
No.
And still, I'm happy that I was so curious and tried to find out, because I met so many interesting things on the way.
Yeah.
And that is also something that brought me further on later in life. When this period had finished with that, he died 80. at the 80th.
Yeah. But do you want to share a bit about what kind of your discovery period there? Because I remember you telling a story about some lecture you went to, among other things, where someone came to your home.
Yeah. Yes, there were many meetings, because when that happened, getting the diagnosis of ALS, and when I read about it, I thought, now the worst thing has happened. Nothing can be worse. That was what I lived after. So that made me a bit brave.
And you were already brave as a kid.
It has already happened, I thought.
Oh, yeah.
The worst thing. So asking whoever I ask for something can only say no. And then I got a bit brave to step up to people that I really wanted to connect to. So I was on a big lecture. At that time, there was a woman that was she was a doctor, but she traveled all over the world, and her name was Elisabeth Kübler-Ross. She was a Swiss Jew living in America, and she was traveling all over the world. And I went to a lecture because it was interesting. Life and death was her sort of topic, yes. And her topic, and what she had as a key was to clear out unfinished business. Unfinished business, to let go of life or to let go of things so you could live. So it was that really interested me to hear that, to let go of unfinished business, because it's about every day. But anyhow, it was lots of people who were interested in listening to her, and she had big seminars with 100 people. It was really big. But I stepped up to her when it was a pause in that big lecture. And I asked her, would you like to come home and visit my dying husband? Oh, I would be delighted, was the answer. So she came home and had spent an evening with us. And we became very good friends. So I had her, the connection with her the rest of my husband's life. And the thing, she was so direct. She went up to him and she said, and how long are you going to live? And he had an answer. That was very...
Wow.
Yeah, he had an answer. Yeah, I will live 2 months more.
Wow.
Yeah, that was... I remember it right now. And it was true. I mean, about 2 months more. So, but we had connection afterwards as well, because she had a world organization that she... So I was interested in the subject, get rid of unfinished business. So I continued the contact with her.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just also so curious, because I mean, if something like what happened with you and your husband would happen now, I would of course Google and join Facebook groups and like all of that to kind of find out information. What did you do?
I just wonder, what did I do? I went to the library, and I tried to find out, and I found names, and and then find names. Okay, no mobile phones or things like that. So I just went to the nummerupplysningen, the number information and the telephone 112 or something. 118, 118 and 118. And then I just asked for a number to a person, a name. It's in America. Yes. And then I got the number, and then I did the telephone call.
Wow.
And that worked. And now nothing works. compared to that.
Yeah.
It was so direct. I mean, having the number, calling.
Yeah, and if they pick up, they pick up. And if they can, if they say yes, they say yes.
And the most important people picking up. And I said, hello. And then I had my sort of what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
So that's how I worked.
Yeah.
To really find out about things.
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. And it, in a way, it sounds so much more complicated, but also so much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And no Google, no computers, no mobile telephones.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah. So easy. And during this time, I mean, because ALS, it's still a disease that is untreatable. I think there's two kinds, and one is maybe a bit more treatable.
I don't know, because at that time I followed everything that happened and all the research that was done, and I was in connection with that, and also was part of creating an association to help people to really use the knowledge that I had sort of achieved through all this trying to find out. So that was important at that time, and at that time I don't know.
There was no treatment. I don't know if it is today. Yeah. So I guess your husband kind of had to like come to terms with that. But for you, who is this type of person that you described as a kid as well? You're curious, you're brave, you're just like doing things. How was it for you to kind of come to terms with the fact that you can solve a lot of things, but this one you can't solve? How was that?
It was to accept it and also think like this, that every day is worth quality. So day by day.
Yeah, take it day by day. Yeah.
Every day is worth to use as quality for him and for us. So we had friends, and but he couldn't talk, he couldn't walk, he couldn't. But he was present.
Yeah.
And that's the cruel part with that disease, that you're clear in your mind, but you can't express. So I had to find out how to communicate, and I made a system for that.
Yeah. And we won't talk about that system in the podcast, I think, but I'm gonna take you up on helping me use that system with my mom, who is in quite a difficult situation as well, even though she doesn't have the exact same disease. But during this time, you also got in contact with the Rosen Method. How do you say this in English?
Rosen Method.
Rosen Method. Yeah.
It was actually some years later, because I promised myself during this hard time, because it was really hard time, but I was young, I could manage with everything at that time. And I promised myself to really use the knowledge that I got during these hard years. It was not to throw that away and say, "Oh, poor me," and so. No, I have really found out so many things. I want to give it further on and use it in life. That was my promise to myself. So it had been worthwhile to struggle that hard. And then I read an interview with Marianne Rosen in a daily newspaper. And then I felt, that's it. I just connected. And at that time, 1984, it wasn't known in Sweden. She came to Sweden first time 1982. So it was very, very little known, but at that time people read more newspapers and still. But anyhow, that really interested me. the sort of simplicity that she explained about, meeting people. Meeting people in a natural way of being interested. She was a physiotherapist, so she found out about touching people and communicating at the same time could really open up for the person who she touched and treated as a physiotherapist to open up for sharing something that was connected to the place where she was sort of treating a shoulder, and they started to share with her things that they hadn't shared before, and she talked about the method that was developed out of her interest for people, and that interested me, so I immediately hooked onto that, and went to a course, and that was really something that I wanted to continue with on the side, beside my biochemistry that I still worked with. So, and it's still like that. It never ends. The interest is there all the time, because it's every time I treat people, it is something new. Because that is a treatment that is not a technique. It is meeting people here and now. So that is always new.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Rosen Method? You're telling us that it's related to touch and like stories somehow, but how did she figure it out, and what can it do?
You can be very simple about it. We all have a lot of muscle tensions. Yes, and it's a bit strain in the shoulders and in your neck. You are sitting there and having your work on computer, and then you say, it doesn't go away. It depends in my computer and on my computer or whatever you think. But when it doesn't go away, it's there. And you can't think, I want it to go away, so let go of it. No, it doesn't happen. It is there by a reason. It's there by a reason, and it's there. It was a need to have it sometime. And that is the interesting part, that I honor all the muscle tensions in a way, because they have been there to protect us at a certain time in life, at a certain moment, maybe a certain period, that we needed the protection from having all the feelings that we couldn't express. So that is the main reason for muscle tensions to be there without letting go. So they have been working for us, and without remembering what sort of work they did.
Okay. So basically, when something happens, we may tense up somewhere in our body. And if we don't understand why and release it, then it sticks because it doesn't know that it's over, or?
Because it might not be over, and then we forget about it, because we need to continue in life without being stuck in the feeling at that time, because it was too difficult to handle the feeling. Maybe as a very, very small child, or all the way up, things happens and you sort of close it down with help of muscle tensions. With help, I always point out that it has been helping you, helping you to survive, helping you. And now, of course, the muscle tensions doesn't need to be there, because it's not so actual anymore with that. So that makes us touching the muscle tensions with big respect for that they are there, and touching the person who really has the muscle tensions without knowing why. Touching with big respect. And the muscle tension, of course, is interesting in one way because you can put your hands on it and you can remind the body to relax wherever it is. And then your interest, my intention and my interest is who is having the muscle tension, who needed it, who can come out of this, who can become more of who you are.
Yeah.
Because then you can use your knowledge from the time when it was difficult.
Yeah.
So difficult as I found out in my life can be turned into knowledge. So that's what I always know in a way, but with big respect for when it's time for the tension to relax. It's not I as a therapist who can know that or to fix it. We are not fixing anything.
No, you're just discovering it, or
and reminding the body with our clear, soft hands present in the moment.
Wow. And how does it work? Like, can I come to like one session and you will find things and it will automatically release, or will it require multiple sessions, or how does that usually work, or if is there a usual?
It's not a quick fix.
No.
But one session can remind you of feeling your body and feeling more of you, like, oh, I can relax, and being touched. Oh, I find out that I have a body that is alive and not just the head, for example, because it's so much of needing to include the body and head, to connect and to really listen to your body. So every person is different and every session is different. So I'm always, I say I and we, but I talk from my own experience.
Yeah.
I always feel when I start a session, this is interesting. I'm jumping into the unknown every time, and that's the open mind to really be ready to meet the unknown.
Yeah.
The unknown that is sort of protected by the muscle tensions. And it could be just letting go of the muscle tension and feeling relieved.
Yeah.
You don't need to know what it was about, but the muscle tension has forgotten to relax. So it's really worthwhile for movement, being more movable, and more breath, less pain. Often less pain because tensions are really painful.
Of course. Yeah.
Can be.
Yeah.
And restrict your movement in your body.
Yeah.
And so many values in just relaxing.
Yeah. I kind of like think, as we grow older, we tend to get more stiff in our bodies. And I'm like, is this because like we are, participating in different events through life and they are stiffening up different muscles? And if we would go to these sessions more often, we would in general be more flowy?
I think so.
Ah, that's nice.
Because you get reminded of the possibility of relaxing without effort. Everything is without effort. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very good. We love we are lazy as a people.
Without effort, I just feel it's so good to be reminded.
Yeah.
I can't treat a person with effort, with my effort.
No.
No, not at all.
I think I've done everything in my life up until now with effort, so I love this.
Yeah, it is actually worthwhile.
Yeah. And do you have any stories of, I don't know, your own experience being treated, or any stories that you can share of like what the muscle tension can be and how it's like what has been connected to it, or anything like that, to make it more concrete for...
Just a few weeks ago, I just had a client that was yawning and yawning and yawning, like a big effort to get the air in on the table with a touch. And I just wondered, oh, here's a lot of air, but you don't need to effort to get air. So we just put a question out to the body in the moment. And I asked her, has it been a lack of air sometime? And then she dropped into a 4-year-old girl because she was locked in a very small room where the window was sort of closed and impossible to open. And that was her bedroom. And it was not not a terrible situation in her childhood, but she lived in that room. That was her room. So she was, it was lack of air. And just finding that little girl and coming out from that room was no more yawning.
Oh, wow.
You know, the memory was the key.
Yeah.
It was not a heavy thing. It was a key.
Yeah.
So that's just a simple example.
Yeah. I love it when you can kind of make things a bit more concrete.
Yeah. And also that I always think that we are not after dealing with problems and dealing with difficult things, that we are occupied by that, but we are welcoming whatever comes. So that is the important thing, to find the person who can be relieved, because that happens.
Yeah.
And then from fear to courage. I mean, fear, of course. We have lots of situations with fear.
Yeah.
And it can be very stuck in your body, in your breath.
Yeah.
So.
What was it with the Rosen? I mean, because you studied so much when your husband got sick. What was it with the Rosen Method that talked to you in particular?
Just to grow more and more. And in the beginning, I just felt, oh, that's where I can use my knowledge that I had promised myself to use. But that was, in the beginning, I thought, oh, it's a place where I can become a better helper. And I was wrong.
Okay.
I was wrong, because I thought, oh, I will be a good helper for others. But it was actually a good helper for myself. So I could find out more about myself. Life became even more easy. And to use my knowledge to be with people so they could find a way for themselves. Actually taking more responsibility for your own life, which I did for my own, not only for others.
Do you want to share anything you did for your life?
For my life, yeah, I don't think I would sit here without it.
No.
So it has made me very, very curious and very interested in people, very interested in listening to people, and knowing that everything is possible in a way. And especially after this last 20 years, when I've been working in Sarajevo.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into that though. So how did it, or where do you want to start?
Yeah, how does everything start? It comes in your way. That's what it did, because at the 90s, when it was war, we got many people escaping from the war, coming to Sweden and living here.
Yeah.
So we had a student, had more than one student, but especially one. And he was a blind man. And he was a physiotherapist from Sarajevo. And he joined our courses. And when he felt, oh, this is something, I don't know what he felt more than this is something to heal from a lot of difficulties that he had went through. He escaped during the war. And he said, oh, I wish I could give this to my people. So can you come there and teach, give a course? And it was me and a colleague. And we said yes, without knowing for what. And that was the start. Yes, and we went there. And from that on, we are there twice a year. And in the beginning, it was only a group of practitioners, physiotherapists. And then it continued to interest people around them, because that's how it is. If you're interested, you talk about it. And it became more and more people coming from not just Sarajevo, Bosnia, first Sarajevo, and then from Bosnia, and then from Serbia, and then from Montenegro, then from Kosovo. We had all the area now. I mean, after all these years, we had people coming from all the Balkan area.
Wow.
Where it was war. They might have thought they were enemies, but coming to a place where you can be safe. I mean, feeling safe when you feel unsafe, it's not so easy.
No.
And we have a strict intention. The team, that we are working, and we tell them we are working. This work is about beyond politics and religions. And we are not here just we think you are victims and we come here to pity you. No, we are here to admire your strength, that you survived and that you are here. And from there on, something is possible.
Yeah.
Because from there on, it has been possible for them to meet and to connect, to become friends, and everything is possible.
Yeah, everything is possible. And now you were there 2 weeks ago, I think.
No, last week.
Last week.
I came a few days ago.
Yeah.
I was back. Came back.
Yeah. So
Inspired.
nice. So what happened? What did you do this time?
This time, it's a lot of work, but since it's so inspiring, they are very and different from Swedes when they come together, I must say, because they are so alive and so it's a lot of joy, more joy, and my thought is, I wonder if the joy is bigger when they have sort of survived so many difficulties and reached into the joy, and the joy is just flooding, and the aliveness is very, very much. So it might be like that. I don't know, but that's how it is, and we are not sort of going there to treat traumas. And to focus on traumas, because we are not trained for that, and not even interested in staying in the trauma. We want to meet who is behind
The trauma.
Yeah, And of course, the traumas, they show up, but they can feel that they are more than the trauma. So they can, and we can all, that is the intention. We are more than the problems and more than the difficulties.
Yeah.
So,
And it's so beautiful, and I like really how you frame the work with them. But I did get caught up on the that they have so much more joy than we have here in Sweden, and I can really relate to that. I had a meeting, I think it was yesterday, with two people I kind of know, and I had so much fun in that meeting. We were laughing so hard, and I realized that it was a very long time since I laughed that much in a work situation, because I tend to take it so seriously. So what do you think we can learn from them?
I have to ask myself, what do I learn?
Yeah.
I learn to be, since there are so many differences in a group, to learn to include all kind of differences, and also to find the depth in the same time as you can find the joy, the depth. The depth, I think the joy is also opening up for the depth in the person. If it's the deep joy that is coming out, and the spontaneity, that is also opening up for what's more there. It's not locked.
So how can I reach it? My own joy.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. It's there. And maybe it's very hidden because there are many sorrows and grief and difficulties that is in the way. But as Marion said, that all the feelings are there at the same time. But you might have cut off a few and then try to show just one. And then it's not possible because they are like life itself. All of them are, to make all of the feelings that are real and true be allowed to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they do, because it's really everything.
Yeah.
So it's not just joy, it is all the depth of feelings.
I think that might be also a reason why we here, or at least my experience here in Sweden, is that since not all feelings is allowed, we kind of push everything down and put a bit of a lid on it. And at least from my travels now, I found that more feelings are accepted in many other countries. So like spending time in South America, they can scream and shout and cry and it's all there. Versus here, since that is not allowed, then we kind of put a lid on everything.
And that's important what you say, really. What has been allowed.
Yeah.
And that also takes a lot of restrictions in your allowance in your body. And tensions to hold back that feeling, because the other one is accepted, and then it's difficult to be inside yourself because you're so occupied or busy with being right for the surrounding or for the parents.
Yeah. Is that also what the touching can assist with?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Because in this method there is no judging, nothing is right or wrong. It is as it is, and you are here, and you are here now. So everything is accepted in the now, and respect for who you are and what is possible. So we don't try to fix people or to give good advice. You should have done that. No, nothing.
You just listen.
You listen, and in the moment, acknowledging also what we see in the body. So it is like a mirror for a person to to really get an awareness about body awareness.
Interesting. And in this, I mean, I in this work that you said, you've been emphasizing a lot on the openness and that everything is allowed and so forth. And I guess in the peace work, that is even more important to get everyone who probably, even though they are maybe open as they are coming, they probably have a lot of environmental things around them that might be placing sort of biases and so forth. So how do you work to create to help people be more open and allowing?
It is in the method actually to realize, to feel, because in the body you can feel very much when it's the truth, a true feeling. You can feel it in your body. It is sort of an acknowledgement that you feel it in your body. But what you say, when we are growing up, we adapt to belief systems that we are given. And that is often that you shouldn't like, if you are in Bosnian, you shouldn't like Serbs, or you shouldn't do that and that. But when we all come together, and first of all, we have that intention beyond politics and religions, it is possible to be more safe and to feel more of yourself. What is my feeling, not a feeling that is put on to me. So you become more and more authentic. And then I remember Marian's words. She said that in this method, you come from the person you think you are into the person that you really are.
Oh, wow.
And that is really true. So that is something.
So can I ask you what person you thought you were and what person you really are? Is it possible to put that in words?
Yeah, I will. I think the person I thought I was not to be more obedient and to be more brought up. I mean, well brought up, like behaving and all those things. So that is something that is really, I don't care. I care a lot, but I don't care about what a person thinks about that I'm sitting here or what I'm saying. I'm here now.
Yeah.
Here and now. That is very different. Not being bothering about what I didn't do and so.
Yeah. Okay, so you're less affected by what other people think or standards that you are put on yourself.
Standards.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so.
Okay, I might need to try this thing.
I must say it is less effort, and I think you are very much there.
Thank you, but I have a long way to go. All right. Is there anything about the peace team that I should have asked you about?
That I can think about now. That's what happens, that you come to peace, very much to peace inside yourself, if you are accepted, and if you accept yourself and come to accept also the difficulties that you have come through. Instead of being a victim, you are a survivor and a winner. A winner. And the peace across borders, like being friends when you're accepting. it is the intention.
Yeah.
It is the intention, and I can see that it happens in that way. And also, when you come away from bringing your relatives and the old belief systems and take it for yours and live from someone else's belief systems, you are free to really feel what is true and what is good.
Yeah.
Your choices can be different. You choose from here.
Oh, I love that. It's very beautiful. I figured we would do a few questions on, because it's not so often I get to speak with someone with your amount of life experience. So I thought I would ask you if you could give advice to people that are like in their 20s or 30s or 40s, based on what you have learned in your life, what advice would that be?
To trust in yourself, and to be to feel that you are okay. And of course, nowadays, I understand it's difficult, so many comparisons. And to find a way to experience joy, to choose something that is good for you. Good for you. And it's easy to say, but I wish more nature, more of playfulness, more of having the experience of that.
Yeah. I think a lot of us, it's easy to understand that that's the way to go. But in our stressful society with, way too much work, way too much commutes, too much internet, too many screens, it's kind of hard to prioritize it. Do you have any advice there on like how to think when prioritizing that or so forth? Because sometimes, at least for me, when I get out in nature, it takes me a while to realize how good it is to be there. So if I take too little time in nature, I don't understand why I was in nature.
Give time is the thing.
Yeah.
To give time.
Yeah.
I just heard in the morning that young people often are sitting 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And to move more. Moving.
Yeah.
And at my age, it's so important to move.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything stiffens if you don't use it.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was one of Marianne Rosen's also training, Rosen movement. Because she taught that to her clients, her patients, when she treated them, that this joint need to be moved more, and you can do like this and this, and she gave them sort of homework, and then it became sort of a method because it was so efficient.
Oh, wow.
To move without effort, but to use your body.
Yeah.
So it is lubricated. And it's the same. That's what worries me really when I see young, beautiful people just walking like this and with a telephone in front and it's so little free movements.
Yeah.
So more free movements. And that opens up for joy and
And final question on that theme. I used to call myself a floating head because of what you're saying. Basically, I had stopped relating to my body. I was just a head, and I was like going a place because I had somewhere to be, not because I wanted to move there. But something I'm still like figuring out is how I know if something is from my heart. Do you have a way of like putting in words how you know if something is from your heart?
From my heart? From my heart?
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely feel it. and the body is sort of giving signals from knowing.
What type of signals?
Yeah, for example, for me, I get a lot of
Goosebumps?
yeah.
Ah, okay.
The hair is rising.
Really?
and yeah, I can feel it in my body actually.
Okay. So I need to get even more into my body to be able to feel this, I think. Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Okay.
And just remember all these body expressions like I have a feeling I have a gut feeling, and all those expressions.
Sayings, they are kind of
Yeah,
true.
it is really a lot in them without you just use them, but when you really feel, what does it mean? Yeah, you have a gut feel. You can feel it in your stomach, and butterflies in the stomach and all those things.
Yeah.
So the body is really home for truth.
Yeah. I think for so many years, at least I trained myself not to really listen to them. When I got butterflies, I thought in my head, is this a good idea or not? And I decided based on my head, not on my butterflies. So they are very low volume now.
Low volume, but good. But butterflies could be when you are nervous, so you are probably more trusting yourself.
True. So. Yeah, that's true. All right, it's been wonderful talking to you. So I have a few final questions for like all of our conversations now. And the first one is, in all of what we've talked about, or in all that you know, what should I have asked you about that I haven't asked you about?
Nothing really shows up because I feel that it's been so pleasant to be here.
That's lovely. Yeah. And the second question then is, what are you working on with yourself right now? Like maybe a physical thing or mental thing or emotional thing or, yeah.
I'm very much aware of being grateful. Being grateful and to look around. It's always something to be grateful for, and not just complaining. And I haven't been so much complaining either, but of course, normal to look for complaints. But no, to be grateful and to be clear about what is important to me, to use the time as good as possible. That is important, and to express it, and to be clear, not hiding in many words, so people have to guess.
Yeah. Ooh, I think we're all good at that one.
Yeah. So I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
So it's something I think about, and of course, not successful always, but at least it's my wish, because it makes it so much clearer in communication and relationship and everything.
Yeah, it does.
It's not always successful.
No, but it's always easier, tends to be at least, because you get a hard no or hell yes. Yeah. I actually realized a question now that I didn't ask, because we never talked about what you had, kind of how your biochemist experience has helped in the work that you do now, that sort of connection.
Aha.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
That is really an interesting question, because when I left the biochemistry for Rosen, when I came a bit in, I thought I left the biochemistry. I left the chemistry. No, it's not at all, because the touch and the sort of meeting a person without judging and with really interest. And the touch is also with very much interest without judging, with a sort of receiving a person. That is creating, or not creating, but stimulating your system of oxytocin. Oxytocin, that is the opposite to stress hormones. So it really helps to when you activate the oxytocin system, you also lower the stress hormone system. So it's sort of a competition.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, that is really interesting. So it is a lot of chemistry in a simple touch. A present simple, that means that not fixing and doing.
Yeah. Just like
It's a lot in the touch of presence and interest and intention. And that is really something that stimulates, I will say, the oxytocin system. And the oxytocin system is such a healing system. And it can also, in my understanding, be an understanding of how also pain can be released in this sort of touch. Because it activates the oxytocin system, activates the body's own pain relief, the endorphin system. So it is a lot happening.
So it's basically a human super pill. Yeah.
Touch is a super pill. for being alive.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I just came to think about it because you were talking about this woman who does the blood test, because I was like, oh, when you says that it's good, because with your background, I'm super eager to talk to her as well.
Yeah. She is very interesting to talk to.
Yeah.
And she has her own story. So, but to remember that what you see with your eyes is not the whole story. So the physiology that is behind touch, it's a lot.
Wow, that's a awesome quote to quote this on.
And that could be more known out in the society. That touch has a great impact, both in stress and in health.
Yeah. I can actually see it in myself because, as you know, I have a puppy. You might have heard her a bit in the start here, yeah. And since I got her, because I'm carrying her and I'm kissing her and I'm holding her, so I can actually, see or feel my own stress levels going down because I get so much oxytocin from it.
Yeah. And the person I have a lot of contact with the person who is doing research on oxytocin, and she also does research with how dogs influence the oxytocin system.
Oh, wow.
And even with how dogs can be helpful for children who have difficulties with the relationships with adults. So, for example, children difficulties at school, they can read for the dog, and they can. So dogs are really very important.
Yeah.
I have had dogs all my life until 2 years ago.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, she's amazing, and I hear that she's starting to wake up a bit. She fell asleep after a while and have been very good now when we've been talking. So
that relationship is very important.
Yeah. She's the best one right now. Yeah. Thank you, Annika, so much for doing this podcast with me. It's been great having you here, and I learned so much, and I'm so curious at testing out the Rosen Method.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed being with you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Peel and Reveal, the podcast where we share stories about joy, purpose, and self-discovery. In next week's episode, I'm talking with Arame Flökemer, an energetic and shamanic healer with over 15 years of experience. Working from her homestead in Kalletal, Germany, Arame guides people through healing and personal transformations. Make sure to listen in.